Our tree. Let me take you to a time in slavery, the 1800s in Jamaica, when George William Gordon was born into a toxic environment. Gordon was born on St. Andrews on Cherry Garden Estates, a plantation in the 1820s, to Joseph Gordon, a white Scottish planter, and a slave woman, Anne Ratney. At 10, he was granted his freedom and went to live with his godfather, James Daly, in Black River. As a boy, he taught himself reading, writing, and bookkeeping. He became a large landowner, shoe keeper, produce dealer, preacher, politician, social worker, and philanthropist. He started out as an Anglican, but later changed to a Baptist. He was baptized to the Baptist Society by Reverend J.M. Filippo, founder of the Jamaican's first free village. He later became a leader of the Native Baptist movement and began building several churches at his own expense. He ordained ministers and was an active evangelist. Gordon ordained Paul Bogle as a deacon in his Native Baptist church, and from then on, strong religious and political ties were formed between the two men. In 1843, at the age of 23, he was elected to the House of Assembly for St. Thomas. His public life began about 1844 when he entered politics as an advocate for the poverty-stricken Negro peasants. In 1863, Gordon defeated his rival, a white planter, for the seat of the Assembly for St. Thomas in the East with the support of the small settlers' votes galvanized by Bogle. Gordon was also made a member of the parish vestry. However, the colony elite who ran the parish vestry objected to the presence of Gordon because he represented the concerns of the black peasantry. A father and son team with the same name, Stephen Cook, conspired to have Gordon expelled from the parish vestry, a move that angered the black peasantry. The next year, settlers re-elected Gordon to the parish vestry and brought the court action against the custos and the parish, Baron Van Keeteldot. In 1865, the mass Jamaicans were ex-slaves and their descendants were struggling with poverty and crop failure in the most rural economy and an aftermath of crippling epidemics of cholera and smallpox. Gordon criticized Roy's objective punishments such as flogging and treadmilling for crimes such as stealing food. He warned, if it had to be governed by such a governor much longer, the people will have to fly to arms and become self-governing. Yet still in 1865, the economic conditions in Jamaica had gotten worse. Gordon spoke openly on behalf of the poor Negroes and with the bitter criticism of Lieutenant Governor Edward Rye. So during this period of oppression for the Negroes, Paul Bogle was very active in revolting against the system of government. On October 11, Paul Bogle and about 300 men marched into Morant Bay, where the town council was in session, after two of his church members were beaten for rallying black voters. There they raided the police station for arms and the courthouse was set on fire. They killed Custos Baron Van Keeteldot and 15 Vestys men. For this incident, a warrant was done for Gordon's arrest. Gordon heard that the summons was out for his arrest, took himself to Governor Fry's. On October 21st, 1865, he was sentenced to death. Followed by Paul Bogle 2 days later. In May 1865, Gordon allegedly attempted to purchase an ex-Confederate schooner with a view to fire ammunition to Jamaica from the United States of America, although this was unknown at the time. On October 27, 1960, the Jamaican Parliament named the building where the Parliament meetings were kept in his honor. It was named the George William Gordon's House, often called Gordon's House. After independence, it was given the nation's highest honor, Order of National Hero, George William Gordon. Buchanan Weevil Gordon. Gordon had acted as governing general for over 70 occasions, the last time being October 2009. In 1994, he was awarded the Order of Distinction, Commander Class, and the Order of Jamaica in 2007.
Hello family, my name is Winston Beckford Jr., also known as Tony, and I'd like to talk a little bit about my grandfather. His name is Arthur Johnson. Arthur, also known as Turo, was very popular in the community with a friendly hello and cheerio as he greeted almost everyone he met. He began raising honeybees at an early age. His first bees were ordered from the Sears catalog. He was known as the Honey Man. He worked 40 years with the Panama Canal Company in the Canal Zone, where he was a foreman at the Miraflores locks. Arthur devoted his retirement years to his apiary and produced some of the best quality honey in the area. Arthur was a good athlete, and he was a member of the Red Tank Barbell Club, president of the AFL-CIO Union, and president of the Jamaican Society. As a young man, one of his jobs was planting the first trees at Summit Gardens. Arthur had dancing legs. He loved to sing and was such a wonderful dancer that some folks would comment on how well he would trip the like fantastic. He grew African violets, a variety of roses, and other plants at his home in Chilibre. He loved to recite poems, and one of his favorites was Somebody's Mother. One of his favorite songs was Old Home on the Range. Arthur was married to Hilda Gale for 52 years when he died on May 4th, 1979 at the age of 72. They were blessed with 10 children: Edmund, Iris, Sylvia, Thelma, Arthur Jr., Cedric, Sarah Jane, Priscilla, June, and Joy. Hilda passed away on October 28, 2005 at the age of 96. Thank you.
Iris Gordon. Iris, the oldest sister, helped with the care of her younger sibling. She had a regal bearing and was referred to as the Duchess by her close friends and family. She was a top-notch dressmaker in Red Tank. She designed and made her beautiful bridal gown for her daughter Virginia. For many years, Iris was a pianist for the First Baptist Church in Parisa Canal Zone. Iris lived with her husband, Angel Anglin, and their 2 children, Virginia and Steve, with their parents in the family home in Chilibre, which after her parents' death, she maintained and took care of the house in top-notch condition. Towards the end of Aunt I's life, she got ill and she moved in with her daughter, her husband, and grandkids. Aunt I died at the age of 85 years old.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the Johnson-Gordon family reunion. Let me just digress for a minute. I really am not in favor of putting people in boxes, and we should all realize that while we're here to celebrate the genetic thread that we all share, that indeed each one of us share with other parts and other people who we are. Yes, there is a Tomlinson, Johnson, Gale component. Then there's a Tomlinson, Gordon, Anglin, Esco, Cuffey, Johnson, Small, Ford, Webster. And those are just at my level, my generational level. Just think 2 or 3 generations from now, there'll be other people, other experiences brought into our family orbit. But there's one thing that I would like to stress, and that is no matter where we go, there'll be a connection, we'll be related. But it's more important to keep in mind that while we are related, we should maintain relationships. There's a tendency to live in our own silo and not have very little crosstalk. And as the silos get deeper, certainly the crosstalk between the generational levels becomes less and less. And I would hate to think that in 10 or 20 years, most of the people who sit here now won't even be faint remembrances. Well, onto the narrative. I am the eldest son of John and Edna Mae Johnson, and we immigrated to Brooklyn in 1955. I have an older brother, Carlos, who remains in Panama. Unfortunately, he's estranged. But Richard and Harvey are here in Florida, and Bill is in Texas. John Llewellyn, or Felfin as he's known on the other side of the pond, were married in 1941. I was born in 1943. And they remained married until her death in 1968. They met while living in Red Tank. Everybody was a member of the Baptist church there, and that was the common area for a meeting. And, they enjoyed life together there and then moved to Croatia, where she lived until we immigrated to Brooklyn. It wasn't easy. John, my father, had been denied a further education living in the Canal Zone and the semi-apartheid environment in which we lived. So he always sought to better himself. His brother Alfred, fortunately, was able to get to what was called the normal school and escape the pangs of apartheidism to a certain degree. But John and his siblings, they pressed on and did what they had to do. And ultimately, that's why we're here. Now, in terms of who my father was and what he did, he was also always known as the impish man amongst the group. He was a little on the shorter stature. He liked to play tricks. He liked to laugh. He liked to sing. As a matter of fact, when the brothers got together, it was usually around a table with some sort of libation. And that's when the conversation began, and then the night went on into singing and rivalry. But that was fun. Although the matriarch, in my memory, was a bit distant and aloof, they revered her. And so she sort of kept the family together. But who really kept the family together was our Uncle Turo. He was the big brother who brought my father home sometimes when things got a little bit cloudy. He was the one who sort of kept his brothers and sisters in line, but with a very quiet, deliberate way. You always knew that he had your back. And Uncle Turo was the one, I think, that a lot of the men in the family modeled their lives after, and women to a certain degree too. But we have a lot to look forward to, and I can only encourage everybody here to seek a mentorship role in making sure that the family, or what the family represents or should represent, goes on into the future. It's important. And one day, we'll all look back at this. I may not be here for the next one of these meetings, and hopefully think that this is going to be a stepping stone to bringing us closer together. Because unlike the times that I lived as a youth in Paraiso, where I saw my aunts and uncles on a regular basis, we're spread out. We don't get to see each other regularly. We don't get to even talk regularly. One of the things that my father did when he was alive was to drop little notes to his nieces and nephews to let them know that he thought about them and to help keep the lines of communication open, which is very important. And it's something to instill in our kids because, after all, we are related. We are family. I love you very much, and I hope this experience is an enlightenment for all of us. God bless.
Grace Maria Gordon. Grace was the fifth child and second of twins born to her parents. She accepted Christ at an early age and was baptized at the Red Tank Baptist Church. Grace was educated in the Panama Canal Zone school system. She married her childhood sweetheart, Stanley Small, on April 19, 1942. They were blessed with 6 children: William, Betty, predeceased them, Esperanza, twins, Sandra and Sheila, and an adopted daughter, Veronica. This fruitful marriage lasted 52 years until Stanley died on March 8, 1995. Grace had a spirit of gentleness and kindness that enabled her to reach out and act charitably to those in need. She was independent, assertive, and daring, while maintaining her charm and feminine poise. Grace committed herself to the well-being of her family and encouraged their starting a new life in the USA. She settled in New York City in 1963 with her 4 daughters. Stanley and her only son, William, joined them in 1966.
Grace studied at the Metropolitan School of Infant and Geriatric Care. She was certified to care for children and the elderly. She worked at the New York Metropolitan Transit Authority for 12 years prior to her retirement. She was a gifted entrepreneur and keen businesswoman. Grace and Stanley moved to Lauderhill, Florida during retirement years. Upon retiring, Grace became an active foster parent to numerous children who needed a safe and stable home. She started journaling her daily activities at age 15 and continued for 70 years. Grace had 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 18 great-grandchildren at the time of her death on July 6, 2007. May her memory be a blessing for all.
Thomas Oliver Gordon Sr., my father. Married his wife, Muriel, December 18th of 1944. Father of 5. Teresa Olivia, Graciela Maria, Patricia Monica, Thomas Jr., myself, and Barbara Jane. As a teenager, after he graduated from school, he went to apprenticeship for a shoemaker in Paraiso and Pedro Miguel. He was also a member of the photo club in Paraiso and Pedro Miguel. He was also a member of the boat club. Some things about my father that people don't realize is that he built the house that his parents lived in Chilibre. He learned these skills about house building from taking courses in Panama at school after his graduation. He was also worked at Summit Gardens. And for those of you who knows where Summit Gardens is, it's a botanical garden and an animal sanctuary in the Canal Zone. What he did there was basically to make grafts of fruit trees and plants. Hence, learning these skills, he went back to his parents' house where they lived in Chilibre, and he farmed the land with varied amount of different kind of fruits from around the world. My dad worked for 38 years for the Department of the Army as a cabinet maker. In 1973, he was promoted, for which he received very many accommodations. Was a family man. Family came first. There wasn't one weekend that I cannot remember as grown up as a teenager, a young man, that my dad did not go visit his sisters or his brothers where they were in Panama and the Canal Zone. He relished the times when his other brothers and sisters that were in the United States visited and made the best moment that he possibly can for us all. He was a pharaoh in his own way of this family. He made it and made us what we are today. Centered on education, strong on family. And even though we didn't show it much, we were high and blessed in religion. My dad is a good man. He did a lot of things. He's a carpenter. He was a husband. He was a grandfather. He was a cabinet maker, a photographer, a caring guy that couldn't sing better than me, but even though he thought he could. The good things that I remember is that when his family got together, they all sang and recited poems. I miss him. I miss you all, and may God bless.
My grandmother, Lydian Dorothy Gordon. Lydian Dorothy was a kind, compassionate, gentle, soft-spoken sister. She was born August 13th, 1921. She loved to read and go to the track and bet on horses, and watch her favorite television soap opera, The Young and the Restless. Lydian married Clifford Esco in 1947, and they had 6 children: Maria Elena, George Alfredo, Patricia Yolanda, Cecilia Jane, Norma Jean, and Delia Ramona. Lydian left Panama in 1966 for Los Angeles, California, where her children eventually joined her. She dedicated her life to her 6 children and 24 grandchildren. She loved spending time with her large family, enjoyed playing with her Siamese cat, Crystal. Lydian was a dedicated nurse's aide for many years at California Hospital, where she was loved by all and left an imprint in the hearts of everyone she encountered. Lydian was called home to be with the Lord on July 4th, 1999, to continue her angelic duties from above, guiding and protecting her family.
Hello, everyone. I was asked to do this audio documentary about my grandfather, Alfred Randolph Gordon. Born 1924, passed away unfortunately 1999. 31 days after his most illustrious and fabulous 75th birthday that I threw for him at the Georgian Terrace in Atlanta, Georgia. Alfred Randolph Gordon, nicknamed Choki, was a strong swimmer, skilled diver, devoted husband, model father, and an unpublished author. After graduating in 1944 from La Boca Normal School teacher training, where he was the senior class president, he left Panama for the USA. Choki married Cecilia Louise Ford on August 31st, 1949. Their union produced 3 children: Marlene, Cecilia, Tasman Patricia, and Michael Leroy. He attended Simpson College in Indiana, Iowa from 1947 to 1950. He and Cecilia relocated to Queens, New York, and later Brooklyn, New York. His educational studies were interrupted due to the birth of his oldest child, Marlene, in 1951. He resumed his studies in 1956 and earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Brooklyn College in 1958. After which, he began a career as a bacteriologist at the Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, New York. Choki began working for the Department of Commerce as the Eastern Region's Equal Opportunity Officer for the Maritime Administration in 1970, where he traveled extensively to brief companies on minority business development. Later in his career, he successfully negotiated affirmative action procedures and programs to better minorities and women through his role as an equal employment officer with the United States Department of Interior. Choki later advanced to assistant director, then director, until he retired in 1987. Big stuff there. After retirement, Choki relocated to Florida to be closer to his brother, Thomas. Choki invested in real estate, enjoyed golfing, reading, traveling, writing, photography, and life. And let's not forget, most of all, coaching me, baby Choki. Chokey passed on November 6, 1999, at the age of 75. He was predeceased by his loving wife Cecilia in April of 1959 and his son Michael, February of 1993. His second wife Carol Douglas passed away May 2021. He is survived by his daughters, Marlene and Tasman, 5 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, 1 great-great-grandchild, 1 stepson, 1 step-grandson, and a host of nieces and nephews and friends, not to mention all of the lessons and all of the laughters that he's left behind, along with a great smile in the love of Stoli with a splash of cranberry.
Agnes, last of the 8 siblings, was born September 14, 1926. As the baby of the family, she was called La Nena, which eventually became Nina. Like all her brothers and sisters, she attended Red Tank Elementary and junior high schools. She was valedictorian of her 8th grade graduating class in 1940. For the next 3 years, she attended dressmaking classes at Mrs. Mildred Wasson's sewing school and Mr. Fuller's typing and shorthand courses. For short periods, she worked at the Red Tank Commissary and the Post Exchange in Albrook. In 1943, she enrolled in La Boca Normal School, graduating in 1947. It's about this time she met my father. She was an elementary school teacher for 26 years, teaching grades K through 4 at the Red Tank, Paraiso, Rainbow City, and Gamboa schools. As a young woman, she was fond of writing poetry. She always enjoyed cooking and baking, often and entertained family and friends at her home. She loved the outdoors, enjoyed going to picnics at Summit Gardens and beaches in Bella Vista, Farfan, and the interior of Panama and La Boca. Agnes was married to Mr. Audley Webster, a teacher, principal, and administrator in the Canal Zone schools. Together they had 5 children: Andy, myself, Danny, Jane Ann, Pinky, and Susie. Agnes was a grandmother of 9 and great-grandmother of 9. She passed away at 90, but subsequently 2 other great-grandchildren have come. Her husband, Mr. Webster, died in 1992 just after Hurricane Andrew.
Yes, sir. What you have said, don't you, sir? Before.
About a George Will I'm Gordon. Me a go tell you about a George Will I'm Gordon. He born in a 18 and a 20 man. He born in a place called a Cherry Garden. Hey, down in a place called a St. Andrew. Hey, I said his mother was a poor nigga woman. Hey, I said his father was a white-eyed man. Hey, father da da bend boy. Bang giddy bend bang giddy boy. Hey, down in a 18 and a 36. He up in a stone in a Kingston man. He up in a store in a Kingston man. Aye, da da bend boy. Aye, down in a 18 and a 42. He sending twin sister go a foreign land. I wanna go a England and I wanna go a France. Aye, just he get a better education. He married to a woman by the name of Lucian. Hey, that the woman was the daughter of Irishman. Hey, da then boy. Hey, down in a 18 and a 50 man. A George William Gordon turn a politician. He run a town party by the man Jordan. Hey, da then boy. Hey. In a place called a Cherry Garden, hey, down in a place called a St. Andrew, hey, ba-da-da-di-da-di-da Bengen boy, hey, bang-giddy boy, hey, he was one of Jamaican national hero, hey, ba-da-da-di-da-di-da Bengen boy, hey, down in a 18 and a 36, he up in a store in a Kingston band, hey, ba-da-da-di-da-di-di Bengen boy, bang-giddy bang-bang